Hi, this is Tony Davis, and tonight I've got the great pleasure of talking to Alicia and Alfred from Sypha. Good evening, guys.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How about you two?
Yes, very
Very
well, thank
good.
you.
Thanks for having
Okay,
us.
good. I can see behind you are massive guitars in the corner.
I
Yeah,
know.
Oh, and
yeah,
a stack. Yeah,
part of my growing collection.
I
I
see.
tried to make a nice addition with the plant on top just to give it that homey feeling, but
Yeah. I think the guitar and the amps winning out actually, but there you go.
yeah,
Just a little bit.
So, Sypha, great single, Sober, the initial single that you issued.
thank
Um,
you.
how long have you been together as a band before that came out?
So officially Sypha kind of began, we say about a year ago. We did our kind of first gig as this band May last year towards the end, so it really is coming up to about a year now. But some of us have we've known each other since uni, so we kind of already collaborated at points and stuff like that, but kind of all four of us as a band, since last year.
Okay, and you're Brighton based, I think, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So presumably most of your gigging has been around the Brighton area.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky enough to play the Green Door Store as our first gig, which is quite a decent venue. But yeah, we played various venues around Brighton. Always like a pleasure to play at them, like Pipeline, Green Door, as I said, Hope and Ruin, and Rossi Bar as well.
Okay, yeah, lots of nice compact venues about Brighton for up and coming bands, aren't there?
For
Yeah,
sure, yeah.
definitely. It's quite a nice, tight knit community for the kind of rock and metal as well. So when you show up to gigs, everyone kind of knows everyone, which is really nice.
Okay, so they sort of
Very
follow each other around and sort of give support to each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. So you obviously went into the studio and recorded Sober.
Yeah.
How long did that take you to do? How many takes was that? Was that a one taker or was it worked at or?
Definitely wasn't a one taker. I would say for me personally, it's one of the hardest songs for me to sing. It's quite high in my range and stuff, so almost knocked out the first one, the hardest one for me. But it was we did it in a day, so it was kind of one after each other. So it was drums, bass, guitar, and then vocals. Kind of it was our first experience. Or actually, no, not yours, but mine and our bassist Will's first experience in a recording studio, so we didn't really know what to expect, but yeah, it was fun. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, it's always you practice a song over and over and over, but as soon as that red light goes on, it just all flies out the window. So there's a bunch of takes inside in the virtual bin. Awful.
I think we realized because obviously you play them live and it's kind of one angle of it, and then when you think I'm actually going to record this, you actually analyze every kind of note that you're playing or singing, and then you're like, oh, okay, maybe we should try out this and stuff. So it does make you kind of think about it a lot more.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because different but kind of the same. I do sort of live radio shows and I do pre-recorded radio shows, and I always find the pre-recorded ones much more difficult because you keep thinking, I want to go back and change that. I want to go back and change that.
Yeah.
When it's live, whatever's come out of your mouth is there and it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely understand that.
Judging by a comment you just made, Alfred, I guess you've had studio time before then.
Yeah, so I used to play in a band called Black Feather. Well, we are technically still going, but this is a few years ago. We had a few tracks. So the studio that we went to record Sober was the same studio we visited to record one of our singles with Black Feather. And just because the producer Rob was really cool, the final piece of work was really amazing as well. I thought it was the best place to go for our first recording of Sypha.
Fair enough. And Alicia, were you in other bands prior to Sypha?
No, nothing that kind of really, actively pushed it or kind of went somewhere. I think it was a lot of trying to write music and stuff. And I think I very much thought, oh, we need all this stuff prepared. And then I was at a point that a band was kind of going to go somewhere, and then lockdown happened. So that was kind of left on the back burner for 2-3 years. And then after that, that's when we kind of went, we all regrouped and was like, you know what, we want to start this new band and we're actually going to push it and stuff like that. So I'd say Sypha is sort of the main kind of experience I've had in that, for sure.
Who's the main songwriter, or does everybody have a hand in it, or what happens?
I'd say you're probably the main songwriter. Like you come up with most of the concepts, like the riffs, the instrumentation, and then usually kind of show me that or give me a recording of that, and then I'll write the melody and lyrics. We have started to be a bit more collaborative now, so we brought in Will, our bass player now, is coming, not just writing kind of bass elements, but he's starting to help with lyrics as well, which is really cool to have that kind of input as well. And James, I mean, you put in like placeholder drums, and then drummer James will come in and make them better. Can I say that?
I mean, totally. I think James is one of the best drummers I've ever seen. So we're so lucky to have him. So I can just give him a really simple drum beat that I've recorded on Logic, just with software drums, and he'll take that and just make it so much more musical. So it really is like a collaborative process now.
When I saw you live last week at the Carlisle, I was surprised actually at your drummer, because you don't often see drummers that are quite as expressive as him these days.
Totally. Yeah.
Most drummers these days are just there to keep a beat with the bass player. There's a couple of drummers I know that are different, but your guy is very definitely different.
For sure. I mean, like I said, I've played with those drummers, and he is the best drummer I've ever played with. He's so musical.
That's high praise. Presumably you don't want to tell him that, or he'd be asking for a pay rise.
No, we
won't show him this.
Right. Yeah, this is not allowed. A drum player's not allowed. Yeah, fair enough.
Right. Cut that.
Yeah. So I picked up your new single that you sent me yesterday, I think, Your Ways, and another strong single. Another, I don't really know what I was expecting, but I was surprised again, because I think, I don't know, there seems to be quite a bit of maturity, not just in the songwriting, but in the playing as well. You sound like a band that's been together a long, long time, and, it just worked. And I played it on my radio show this morning, and got some. The listeners really came back with some, Sypha, can't wait to see them at the Rock birthday bash.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Thank you.
No, so that's gone down really well. So that's, I think from talking to you the other day, that's one of 2 tracks that you're going to drop in the fairly near future.
Yeah, so that's coming out on the 22nd of May, correct me
Excellent.
if I'm wrong. And then we've got one coming out recorded that's going to be in that summertime. Not a specific date for that yet, but kind of shortly after that.
Okay. I get the idea that it's quite tricky for bands to be able to afford recording time at the moment, because it looks to me, looking from people that I know that run venues and book bands and whatever, nobody's paying very well at the moment, which means that bands never make enough money really to be able to say, let's go into a studio and make an album and spend the time making the album. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because we have enough songs in the bank to record an album at this point, and we'd love to do that. It's just unfortunate, like the high costs at the minute. And the time required as well. It's I think grassroots football. Grassroots music is it needs a boost of some sort.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how many recording studios there are in Brighton, but my guess is there are probably several of them knocking around, judging by the number we've got over here. I imagine in Brighton that's much, much more. But as you say, it's the cost and the time, isn't it? And sound engineers tend to be quite expensive.
Yeah, it is definitely an investment. It's kind of why every kind of gig we play or any kind of profit we make at the moment, we just put into what we call like the band fund. So we don't kind of give, at the moment, I'd say we're probably losing money just because we're, fronting travel and stuff like that. And then we don't use the money that we get paid to go back in our pockets. We just put that in the Sypha fund, and that kind of feels like that's where we're going to make the most movement in terms of, venturing out into merch and going further abroad and stuff like that. So that's what we're kind of doing at the moment.
And of course that's another issue as well on merch, isn't it? Because some venues will take a percentage of your merch, won't they? Have you come across any of those yet?
Well, we don't have any merch yet, really.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, yeah.
So
Fair
that's
enough.
probably why.
Yeah.
So,
A percentage
yeah.
of nothing is nothing, really, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully we don't encounter that kind of in local venues. You kind of hope not. Yeah, yet to see, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly. I mean, I'm involved with a promotions company now, and we've made it quite clear to venues where we're putting on gigs, there is no merchandising surcharge, because that's where you guys make most of your money these days. You know, if you've got merch and you're able to sell it, you know, eventually you will have a CD, you will have T-shirts, and that's extra money for you. And I think it's wrong that venues just charge you to be able to sell it there.
Yeah, totally.
Good. We're on the same side with that.
Yeah.
So, gig wise, have you got lots in the diary coming up? I mean, I know you've got our 30th birthday bash.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, so are we. What else have you got in the diary over the summer?
So we've got our first trip to London on the 18th of May. Couple around Brighton. We're playing at a place called the Comedia for the first time.
Oh, I know the Comedia.
Really excited for that. Couple of festivals coming up. Playing at Hammerdown Festival in July.
That's good.
That's my hometown, or where I was from. So nice to visit there.
Yeah, and then we've got Level 7 Festival in September, I believe.
Is that Portsmouth?
And then a few other gigs, various places as well. Yeah,
I think we've got gigs booked up till kind of October now. Trying to, like we say, a few around Brighton, and then trying to get a bit further abroad. It's quite hard when none of us drive at the moment. So that'll probably be one of the next steps if we want to go slightly further out.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody's got to buy a van.
Yes.
We're getting a lot of dirty looks on the trains with all our gear.
Well, you could do impromptu gigs on the trains and hand the hat around. You might be able to fund your travel.
There we go.
True.
I like
That's
that.
a great idea.
There's a lot of talk these days about what genre of music falls into. You know, is it punk? Is it post-punk? Is it new wave of classic rock? What is it? Where do you think you guys sit?
I find this question
or do you not want the tag?
No, we don't mind it. I think it's going to be slightly different to kind of everyone's opinion, because sometimes we play with a lot of heavier artists at the moment in Brighton, especially. So we'll be playing with metal bands, but if you listen to Sypha, I wouldn't necessarily call that metal. But we've got some other songs that I guess would balance on that kind of classic metal, classic rock at least. So we just always go with like hard rock as the kind of generalized one, but it definitely pulls influences from like blues, metal, all that kind of classic rock and stuff. Because
I mean, quite interestingly, there's sort of there is elements of punk in there as well. There's all of that, and I think it's quite cliche to say, but I think Sypha's music is really a collection of all our favorite bands into one. Yeah, which is the best way to be, really. So what influences you? What are your favorite bands? Motorhead.
Definitely, that's my number one.
You must have felt really at home in the Carlisle then, with all the pictures of Lemmy around the place.
Totally, I was loving it. I mean, other than Motorhead, I'd say like Hailstorm.
It's kind of a
great band.
Avenged Sevenfold's probably in there as well. As I say, we all have a bit of everything that we kind of pull from in our kind of favorite bands. So it's quite hard to say like one specific, but I would always say it just goes back to this kind of classic rock style bands, really.
Totally,
I was quite interested in your voice, Alicia, because when I heard you before I heard another band, and I suddenly thought, wow, they've got similar voices. Have you ever heard a band called Hearts and Hand Grenades?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I recognise the name or not, but I can't think. No.
They're from Buffalo in New York, and they're over here touring at the moment. But the lead singer there's a quite a resonance between your voice and hers, and I was because they're different. They are different to the voices that you hear from a lot of female vocalists. So
I'll have to check that out, actually.
No, do it's you might not agree with me, I might just be I've got lousy ears, but Okay, so you're quite small. I hope you don't mind me saying this, Alicia, but you're quite small, really, aren't you?
That is fine to say. I was even wearing my chunky docs that day.
I
so.
know, yeah. I think I think I described you as diminutive.
Yeah, I do. I think that's I mean, I quite like it. People like don't necessarily expect this kind of music, I guess, from me. So I kind of pull on that a bit.
That's exactly where I was going with it. You know, I mean, have you always been able to sing at that strength, or is it just something that's developed over the years? Because, you know, yeah, it's, I think a description I heard somebody make of you was pocket rocket.
Amazing. I love that. Oh no, thank you. I appreciate that. But I don't know. I guess it has definitely developed over time. I mean, we've got some old recordings of some of our songs, and we were kind of listening to them the other day, and no, I definitely didn't sound, I guess, that kind of, I don't know, that much attitude or that, yeah, kind of like harsh kind of, I mean, I would say like punky kind of element, kind of, you know, pushing that. No, I would definitely think that's over time. I think because I didn't necessarily get into slightly heavier music until later. So where some people kind of brought up on it, I definitely kind of discovered that more towards when I went to college and uni. So I guess those kind of influences kind of developed and changed my voice as well.
Well, were you an ABBA girl before that?
I mean, I still claim to this day that McFly is up there for me, which probably doesn't sound anything like our music, but
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that was kind of the
fair
music.
Okay, so the other two guys in the band, the rhythm section, they really go for it, don't they? They're sort of a full-on pair of you know, in tune motor, you know, engine room, really.
Yeah, totally. I think that's you know what keeps us going as well. Is well, you got James behind me, so it's impossible to not feel that energy coming off him. And Will, the bass player, is always so locked in.
Yeah.
You know, one thing we do get told quite a lot is together we are like quite tight. We sound quite tight, and I think that is down to the rhythm section for sure.
Yeah, I think when I saw you on Friday night, I was actually quite surprised at how tight you were for a band who were not in front of a very large audience, and you know, it was late in the day and you'd been hanging around waiting to go on and whatever. And I just thought you were very tight and very professional, because it would have been very easy under those circumstances to go, oh, let's just knock it out and get out. But I thought you were really, you know, very professional, and the band, it shows that, you know, your tightness shows on stage, because the sound was just excellent. You know, it was, once they sorted out Alicia's vocals on the sound system after the first song, it was you know, it was really sort of a good sound. And for a very small audience, well, yeah, it was a very small audience, let's be honest about that. It's not your fault. that isn't your fault. The fault of that is you know, everybody was out on Monday for the bank holiday, and you know, whatever. I think just a bad timing, really. But you had the audience really going.
Yeah,
you know,
it was. We were quite surprised actually how, like, you know, the really great response we got. So we were really grateful, really appreciate it. I think we've just tried to sort of get in the habit of, just doesn't matter where we play, doesn't matter the audience, just really kind of going for it and really enjoying it. Because I think if we don't, and if we're not enjoying it ourselves, how do we expect anyone else to kind of enjoy it?
For sure,
exactly
like,
that. Yeah,
we always say, you know, before we go on stage, is, you know, have fun, play to each other. You know, if you need a boost, turn to one another, you know, give a look in the eye and feed that energy off each other. And like Alicia said, like, if we look like we're having fun, which we are, it will reflect on the audience as well. You know, if we were up there kind of all nervous and closed off,
our first couple of gigs, probably.
Yeah, it would that energy would go off into the audience as well. So we just go up there and just have fun. Certainly
plenty of energy there Friday night. Really enjoyed it. So 27th of May, you're coming across to the Hastings Rock Birthday Bash. Thank you very much for doing that for us. We were keen to bring a new band to Hastings, but also that's part of what I do for Hastings Rock, is to try and get new music out there. So you know, I was really pleased that you're coming. It's a very mixed bill. Gripper Lee, the band that are on just after you, totally different to you. And if you stay and watch them, you'll be, wow, you know, they're really quite different. In fact,
I think that's.
go on.
Oh, sorry. I was say I think that's some of the best gigs we've had is where the lineups are just all completely different because it's just like it's just so fun. Like you will just you know you're on the one kind of genre and then you go to the next. And it's just really exciting to be kind of exposed to that as well. And obviously it's not very like comparative between bands, so you just kind of have fun and
it's always really nice. Like I mean, like we're saying, like, most of the bands we play with are like rock and metal and stuff like that. So we love gigs where it's a range of bands and genres. Just exploring the music.
Well, you'll probably like Gripper Lee. They'll be a bit different. And then not top of the bill really, but closing the show is Sacrilege, who are also from Brighton. You probably may have seen them around. I don't know. They're heavy metal. You know, they're sort of they're real headbang material. You know, but
I can't wait.
They're popular in Hastings. They play here quite regularly, and you know, they were picked to ensure that we get a good crowd out, hopefully. So we're promoting you like mad, saying don't be late, don't miss this band. They're first on. Do not miss them. They are great. So you know,
thank you. Really appreciate that.
You have all our support. Okay. So the future is a couple of two singles due to drop over the summer, and saving hard to get into a studio for an album, no doubt.
And I think music video is something that we want to definitely be in the works as well. Hopefully we should have at least one by this year, so that'd be exciting.
Excellent. Good. Okay, well look, thanks very much for talking to me tonight, and the very best of luck to all of you for the future, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the 27th.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us on.
You're welcome.
Perfect.